Jody, you in Cleveland this week?
I'm at the farm.
Okay.
Been
So
here all week
very cool, very cool.
I'm sorry, where?
at the farm. We
You
built
on a
a
farm?
horse farm 2 hours south of Cleveland during the pandemic, and it just got finished. So hanging out here, my family descended upon me about 2 o'clock. So my nieces, I got them candy. So we have about 20 minutes for them to eat the candy until they just are like,
The sugar will set in and then yeah. So
yeah, yeah.
and Rob, where are you this fine Friday afternoon? Looks like you're I don't know where you are. Where are you?
So, Rich, we're gonna do the while we're waiting for folks to join, the flashback machine, the Rich and Rob flashback machine. You might recall several months ago a episode we had with Todd Duncan, not Tim Duncan.
Oh, NBA Hall of Famer. Oh, he's way better than Todd Duncan.
Yeah, with Todd Duncan, and I was filming from a quarry that was used to film Dirty Harry.
Okay.
That was the trivia question. Remember that?
I remember that.
So you might recall Dirty Harry in the movie. Toward the end, the bad guy kidnaps a bunch of kids on the school bus, and the school bus is passing under a train trestle, and there's Dirty Harry standing there on top of the train trestle, and the bad guy sees him up there. Well, behind me, we'll move the camera here a little bit.
Yeah.
That's that is the trestle that Clint Eastwood was standing on as the school bus passed underneath it. It's obviously a drawbridge, but it's that's where I am. I'm back in Marin County, and that was in Dirty Harry.
The lengths you will go to for the show and our listeners, Rob, it's really admirable. So it is.
I did want to read something from a loyal fan before
Okay.
we get too far into it.
Okay.
And I get a lot of fan mail, by the way, Rich, and a lot of condemnation of you and me, which I'll save up and read at some point. But this is from attorney Brian Levy, who wrote, "Every time I see a reminder of the rundown in my email, I keep seeing this baseball image of you and Rich tossing the conversation back and forth with some poor schmuck in the middle, racing back and forth to try to get in safely to a base. Other than a guy in the middle, I think it's a pretty accurate description of your conversation, except when you have a guest." So thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you, Brian. Brian Levy, great blog, one of the best mortgage industry blogs that I read religiously. Good guy, met a couple of times, real good guy. So I don't know if that was positive. I don't know if that was positive show feedback.
He drinks a little bit too much, but other than that, he's okay.
Well, then
I feel like I'm in the middle of home plate and third base, and you guys got me in a rundown. I don't know.
Well, we should probably introduce our guest, who may need no introduction because she's been on the show many times before. Our good friend, fellow Clevelander, the president of Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Jodi Hall. Jodi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure it'll be fun. Always fast and furious.
Jodi will class it up a little and give us some good intel from a really smart and strong leader in our industry, and no shortage of things to get into this week. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Hang on, Rich. Hang on. Jodi, nobody, like the old capital markets guy, no capital markets person wants to be called fast and furious. Second of all, thank you for being on here today, raising the collective IQ of the folks on the screen here. So
I don't know about that, but I will say I think it might be like the most positive day that I've joined the rundown, or the last week in mortgages in, I don't know, 18 months. So
every time Jodi is a co-host for a show, some horrific industry news releases within 24 hours of her appearance. So I was refreshing my browser, shuddering in the hours leading up to the show, Jodi. But at least that I've seen no big news of note. So, but
there's 26 minutes for something to happen.
well, let's go ahead and get into it. And I already see a lot of action in the chat. I'm going to punt on my Super Bowl prediction. I don't know why anybody would want any of my predictions, my recent run, but yeah, I want. Oh boy.
Speaking of bringing the IQ level down a notch, Tom Daly here and Angela Knightley.
Speak for yourself, Tom, please.
If you want to throw down, I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary right here, Angela.
I have more intelligence in my little pinky finger than you do in your entire body.
Oh, well, agree to disagree. So
All
on
right.
that note,
Hello, TMC family. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this wonderful news about Stay Classy with TMC in San Diego. We have some great speakers for you. One of them being Sandra Thompson, who will be interviewed by our very own Jodi Hall. So
she's with the FHFA, correct? I believe that's that new pickleball league everybody's talking about.
no, Tom, but
No?
she is the director of the FHFA, yes. But no.
Agree to
pickleball.
disagree again.
Yes. Okay. We also have Sam.
But we wanted to jump in to remind you all to come join us. There's still time to register for Stay Classy with TMC in San Diego. Great city. Gonna have a fun opening event. Anchorman, yacht rock themed. Apparently there's this whole genre of music where you know these mustaches today, and apparently it's for people who are boaters and they just love it. So
Yes, it looks like Rob's already prepared for it.
You know, I came this close recently to putting in the explanation or the derivative of San Diego, however it's pronounced, from that movie in my commentary until I actually watched it. And I thought, I don't think I need that in my leadoff.
well, I promise you, Rob, you're gonna get great feedback from Brian Levy after this episode.
Right.
Rob, at least we see you heated. We were getting a lot of negative feedback about the neckties you keep wearing. And I see you shed the necktie this week. So the reader feedback, keep it coming. And our podcast listeners, if you ever need reason to join the live broadcast, our very own Tom Gallucci and Angie Scarfino just cut into the live feed in full Anchorman regalia, in part to promote our big conference coming up, Stay Classy with TMC in San Diego, just about a month away. So
I'll take one of what Tom had to drink. Thank you.
Scotch.
Yeah, it's a good call. He knows what to drink. So all right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. And you guys are more than welcome to hang out, stay on, and enjoy and be part of the fun today. And we'll go ahead and actually get into some real industry news now. And I will get. My girlfriend is threatened to disown me if I don't get the Christmas decorations down this weekend. So all the commenters in the chat, rest easy. So, and
Christmas is the season that extends all year, Rich. Don't give in.
your mustache is crawling away. So
You need to have that mustache extend a little farther there, Tom.
I'll work on my extensions before San Diego.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. And Rob, how can we not start the job? It is freezing outside. I'm looking at -3 real feel, the window behind me. It is freezing outside in America, but the jobs market is red hot. We've had a lot of good jobs numbers these last 3 or 4, so the bar was high. You could not have a better jobs report than we've had this morning. 517,000 new jobs versus expectations of about 200,000. Within that, wage growth was muted, 3.6% year over year. It's a little higher than what the Fed wants, but very healthy and moderating. And in addition to that, another economic indicator that came out this morning, the ISM index, big manufacturing index in America, also came in way stronger. And what's going on at that?
I remember where I am, Rich. We'll swing this around a little bit. Just
my last point before I get your opinion on this great job number. The phrase I heard mentioned, one of the analysts, was labor hoarding. So a lot of the business
labor what?
Labor hoarding with a D. And, maybe some of the seasonal jobs that normally would be let go after the holidays, they were kept on. Business owners betting on the come from the economy to positive news. And, one thing I've seen with my eyes historically over times in the financial markets is when business owners are betting on themselves in the highly entrepreneurial America, typically a good sign of things to come. Your thoughts on the jobs report this morning?
Yeah, once again, we had a great jobs number. Once again, we've had great economic news. We've had a string of inflation data that's good. We've had a string of employment data that's good, but it's never enough. It's never enough. There's always somebody who's trying to prove their worth by picking apart the number and saying, well, what about this and what about that? And we need to wait until the March, Fed meeting to see what's really on their mind and so forth. But really, the economic data we've been getting, I think, continues to point to a decent economy. I mean, what recession, right? Non-farm payrolls being up over 500,000. And so, the employment picture, we're not going to get any kind of recession until unemployment starts going up, and it's not going up. In fact, it's going in the opposite direction. So I think granted, the Fed was behind the 8 ball, behind the curve to a great degree, but I think the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, has made up for it, and so the economy continues to move along and seems to be doing okay. I mean, what more could we want right now? So rates are doing what they're doing, and I wanted to ask Jodi. I know that a mortgage company, mortgage companies aren't in business to predict the market, and capital market staff are not there to predict interest rates. Are you, in terms of the reaction at the mortgage company level to numbers like this, have you seen as rates have come down a little bit and we continue to get decent economic news and rates have been waffling around at these levels for quite a while, are you seeing an uptick in business? And what kind of business, if you are seeing an uptick or an increase in phones ringing or emails, what kind of borrowers or what kind of clients are out there that might be contributing to that uptick in business?
Definitely have seen an increase in activity from credit pulls and applications. I do think that, especially the markets that we're in, we're still seeing a shortage of inventory. Because home prices have come down slightly, you have that the seller competitiveness that they want their house to sell at the same level that their neighbor's house sold for last year. And if it's not bringing that, then they're backing out of the market. So I think that we still have an inventory problem. And I think that we'll continue to see that inventory problem exacerbated as rates go down. Because I do think that, everyone is optimistic that interest rates are going to be in the low 5s this year. And I think the low 5s puts us in a really good place for an industry to be able to have an affordable mortgage, but not if we can't find the inventory. So what my fear is as interest rates continue to trickle down, then home prices start trickling back up as they've started to flatten out in some areas. I think that we'll see the home values continue to go up. And so it's catch-22. But what I will say, probably the most optimistic thing about the 5s is the mindset that it puts our loan officers in. We saw almost paralysis of being able to go out and sell, and because the 7s and the 6s were an excuse. So I think that the optimism of the sales force is going to take hold as we go into a spring purchase market. And so I'm extremely optimistic that those credit pulls are going to turn into applications, are going to turn into rate locks to the extent that we have inventory available.
How do you, as a manager, as a leader in the company, motivate that sales staff to actually pick up the phone? Recently, I published in my Saturday commentary a letter, very good letter from a loan officer, longtime loan officer named Hunter Marquardt on the West Coast. And Hunter, continues to beat the drum about get off your butt, make calls, go visit realtors. The loan officers that I visited with in recent weeks, they're out there, visiting with realtors. They're doing what they can. How do you personally get the sales staff to kind of, make outgoing phone calls and think about new ways of getting business?
It's extremely difficult. And, but what I think has happened over the last year too, is we've seen a little cleansing of the market. So we have some really good salespeople that are left in the market. And so they are passionate. They know their products. They are the ones that are left, or the ones that, know how to get business. We've talked a lot this year about controlling what you can control. We can't control inventory. We can't control rates, but what we can control is our passion and our perseverance and our education on products, so that we can then deliver that education to realtors and referral partners. So it's about gaining confidence through the tools that are available. It's about a whole lot of communication. Loan officers do not like to join virtual trainings and meetings, but they're listening now. The other thing is we have to show, and part of our focus, we have a virtual sales summit coming up on March 1st and 2nd for our sales team. And our theme is Unlock the Power of You. And it's a lot about being able to brand yourself and to use marketing automation and bomb and things that we had never thought of using. And it's like, I didn't even know what bomb was. I'm almost as old as Rich is. So, so we're strongly focused on social media and marketing themselves and how to get the message out there with products and education. And so, again, you can only control what you can control. We can talk as much as we want to, but we really have to get people that were already motivated. We have to get them the tools and resources to get out there and do it themselves.
So the tagline is Unlock the Power of You.
It is.
I think Rich was telling me the other day that Tom writes that, he takes a shower and the mirror gets all steamy. And when he comes out of the shower, he writes Unlock the Power of You in his mirror. So that's a good.
He steps out of the shower with
morning,
his robe. Use your robe as your cape.
Lush,
There you go.
chest hair, and I mean, two things, if I might, real quick. Sales call reluctance is very real, and it's a large part why we at TMC rolled out our sales call reluctance course as part of our TMCU educational offering to help support the loan officers of our members out there as they're having to get back to really pounding the pavement for originations. And one last thing, what is with this Jermaine Powell fellow? Does he not like jobs, or does he just hate the mortgage industry? These rate increases. Rob, you know better than any of us. What's the deal?
Well, can you say that was a Rich Serbinsky question there? Can you sum it up in one question rather than a diatribe?
It's the only way I know. The American public sees Fed rates increase constantly while these fantastic job reports keep coming out, and it's trying to figure out what the equilibrium is out there. And I know mortgage bankers would love to know where the light is at the end of the tunnel.
I would say we're at equilibrium. I mean, this is a simplistic view, but the market is the market, and where rates are, and there's an active market in the treasury market. There are buyers and sellers and supply and demand. I mean, it's this whole, I hate to get too Adam Smith here on you, but frankly, rates are where they should be right now. Rates have been relatively stable for a while. I think people on the call know that the Federal Reserve does not set mortgage rates. That's a factor of supply and demand. You've got non-QM out there. You've got various programs where companies are manufacturing these loans and figuring out where in the capital markets, in the secondary market, what how to price those loans and what the rate should be. And so I'm a big believer in the free market, and rates kind of are where they are. And in terms of an equilibrium, I get a lot of loan officers emailing me asking, when are rates going to go back into the 4s or the 3s? And I tell them, I personally don't think they are, because what is it going to take to get rates mortgage rates back in the 3s? We don't want another pandemic, and we don't want a depression or even a recession. And so rates are, as Jodi points out, rates in the 5s, not such a bad place to be. And I think that borrowers become accustomed to rates at some level after a while. And I think loan officers are seeing that already. So I would say that we are at an equilibrium. And, you can't, I continue to make the point when I speak to audiences, especially of loan officers, and I tell them, look, borrowers are not paying you to predict interest rates. Borrowers are paying you to give them great programs and great service. And no loan officer out there is going to have a potential borrower come through the door and have that loan officer say, I heard from this expert that rates are going to go down. So Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, why don't you come back in 3 months or 6 months when rates are lower, and we'll do something for you. The loan officer is going to do what they can to help them now. But I'm going to turn that back to Jodi. Sure.
How old was that woman? She looked like she was about 104. Where are you?
Pushing a baby.
Anyway, Jodi, so what I would imagine, and I'll get off my soapbox here a little bit, but loan officers, it's not, they need to be aware of where rates are and what is driving rates. But it's, at the end of the day, they're back at their desk trying to get business regardless of where rates are. And I think rates are in pretty good place right now.
Yeah, and the thing is we all are selling the same rates, right? So they're not drastically different from one place to the other. So the competition is relatively close, unless you're dealing with that one company of initials that does wholesale. But so for the most part, rates are where they're at. And again, those loan officers who are skilled and have been in it for a long time, they're not woe is me. They're out there trying to make it happen, and at the rates that are given, because they need to continue to have money. They need to continue to put money in their pockets and feed their families as well. So there's no delaying to the next month or to 3 months away, right, when we lower.
So
and
I need to
another level of distraction behind me. For those of you that didn't hear, I gave my nieces candy to try to keep them quiet. And I told Rich before the show started, we have about 20 minutes until they implode. They've imploded. They imploded at 19 minutes. So we're trying real hard here to keep the volume
okay
down.
So if you have to jump, just wave goodbye and log off. But I had one question though, because you're in the trenches in the mortgage biz, and we asked Kate this last week. I put her on the spot a little bit, but in terms of the sleepy venue of the credit world, normally you don't think a lot about credit, but with Fair Isaac jacking the prices up, and the bureaus and so forth, and the credit reporting agencies having to pass those increases on to their clients, have you changed your strategy in terms of having loan officers run a bunch of credit reports on each borrower, or instructing them on what to do, or how are you handling the cost increases in the credit world?
We had started to change the strategy last year with running pre-qual credit, largely to be able to issue pre-qual without having the trigger leads that are created by them. So we had started to make that shift, and we see the importance of doing that today to help keep the costs down and try to weed out the borrowers who aren't going to qualify ahead of time. Also working on entering a pilot with Fannie and Freddie to be able to run AUS on pre-qual credit, which I think will be huge for the industry. to be able to get those findings prior to doing a hard pull credit pull that puts an inquiry on the borrower's credit, impacts credit scores, and creates a trigger lead. So they start getting called off the hook by all of the trigger lead buyers out there. Just really flooding the market with confusion for the consumer. So that strategy had already changed prior to it. Just will prior to the increase. We saw 104% increase with one of our credit providers, 112% increase with another one of our credit providers. We went out, we vetted 6 credit vendors, and we are in the process of changing credit vendors to be able to bring what that increase was going to be, bring that down further. Really pushing the FHFA threw it out there that Fannie and Freddie were going to be accepting 2 bureau as opposed to tri-merge. If that happens this year, it's not going to be until the end of the year, so not going to see a relief from that perspective. But kind of along those same lines, I've been on a rant about the cost of verification of employment. And the number one verification of employment, we saw a huge increase. I think it was in 2021 was around 39, I think it was 39.95. We saw a big jump to 48.95 in the beginning of 2022. And we have another increase to 50 some dollars, $55+ per verification, and that's even the re-verification. So if you have the happy path, you have one borrower that had one job in the last 2 years, you verify twice, you're over $110 just to verify employment. That's far more than what we're paying for credit services. So we have been working hard to create that waterfall. And what does that waterfall look like to be able to drive down the cost of verifications as well. So it's really tough to be an IMB today and try to drive down costs and keep the cost of a mortgage affordable. And it requires I won't say, I was going to swear. It requires a lot of work. And because you have to vet every single vendor, and you have to come up with a strategy to be able to drive down those costs. So we're pushing towards trying to use True for at least 35% of our verifications of employment, which is a borrower enabled verification of employment for a fraction of the cost, where you get you get the initial verification, 2 re-verifications for 1 cost, waterfall that into a manual verification of employment, and then the third will go to the big one that we can't avoid, but are trying to avoid at all costs for the consumer.
Yeah, we don't. Boy, you've raised a lot of issues there. One of which is we don't swear on the show. We use terms like mollywomp.
And Jodi's got children in the background, so she can't swear.
Right, and I've got elderly people heading off to their boardwalk.
This is a family show.
It's a family show. So, you mentioned that you're vetting a series of credit providers. Do you tell your existing provider, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and sharpen your pencil?
Yeah. So Rob, honestly, this has been my entire career. And for those that are on the phone, they know I don't have time not to be transparent. And I also think that it's fair, right? That, people that we have been doing business with from a vendor perspective, I try to look at as our vendors as really our partners in the business. So I don't think it's fair not to tell your existing vendors if you're going to go to market to look for a better price and ask them to also compete. So yeah, we told them ahead of time. We've had very candid conversations. I just had a call yesterday with a vendor that I have been with for, I don't know, in the teens of years. That said, I can't, it's no longer about search customer service and functionality. You might have, be on a different platform that allows me to do some of the things I want to. It just comes down to dollars and cents. And I'm not saying that I won't be back in November, December, having to negotiate again. But it's what I have to do today for the business. And, it's no hard feelings. It is business.
Right. Jonathan Freed, I can't really see the notes, but I did see this one that for a car loan, the verification of employment is 15 smackers, 15 ducats. And compared to the prices that you were just mentioning, that seems more reasonable. I mean, heck, at some point, I would think that if prices go up far enough, it invites competition to come in and
No.
Oh, Rob
I'm
spotted
just
the balloon.
doing I want the background.
Oh.
Oh, no. I wanted that. In fact, it's sure.
Are these the dogs?
Well, I see that private
Production
walkway. So,
people are arguing with the locals, but good opportunity to remind everybody. This is the rundown with
okay.
Rob and Rich.
I've,
I'm
like,
Rich Levinsky with the Mortgage Collaborative. That's
okay.
Rob
I'm just
randomly talking to some local under a bridge. And this week joined by the Anchorman cast and the CEO of Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Jodi Hall. And
I love being on this show, and Rich always gives me a promotion.
you're not the CEO?
I'm
You're
the
the
president. I'm just the president.
Well, now you're the CEO. Look at that. See how that
But
works?
thank you.
The founder.
There's all kinds. There's so much in the chat. I don't even know where to start. There's a good note from Brian Levy about a recent CFPB ruling that seems to not be in their favor as it relates to their fair lending enforcement. A note about a comment from the CEO of Equifax, pretty much bragging about their pricing power on verification of employment. The aforementioned note about car loan employment verification, same task, $15 versus sounds like Jodi's paying about, or was paying about $50 now, and comments in the Q&A about the pricing methodology, Fannie Freddie. We beat that up. There's no way to, I don't think, put lipstick on that one, right, Jodi? Is there anything I'm missing there on the Fannie Freddie price hits?
About the Fannie Freddie price hits. Have you looked at the different tiers where the price hits take? So I don't understand. I feel like the message to be able to provide lending to an underserved community is completely, the rug is pulled out from what the price hits are, because the higher the LTV goes, the greater the price hit until you get to a certain point, then it comes back down because of the for mortgage insurance. The one I really can't figure out is DTI increases, there are price hits, and as FICO goes down, there are price hits. Where if you look at minority borrowers over the years, they have over a 40% DTI, they have less than a 680 FICO score, and they have higher LTV than the rest of the communities. But we want to serve an underserved community, but we're going to like pound the crap out of the interest rate for those borrowers. It's mind blowing to me. I did want to say something about, I need that comment copied out of from Equifax, because I actually wrote to the FTC about fair trade and how they are having monopoly on the mortgage verification of employment is hurting the consumer. And so I need to take that and I'll re-up and say, hey, did you get my note? Can you help us out here?
so Jodi, and thank you for muting me. Whoever muted me, it's probably Amy or Rich. Last Saturday, I had my commentary had some letters from lenders about the inherent problems with the FHFA's changes to the grid. I'll send that to you. I got a lot of good responses from that.
Awesome. And it's more about understanding too. Like maybe it's good reason, but when you look at it on the surface, it seems counterintuitive to what they're trying to accomplish. But as Angela said previously, I have the opportunity to ask that question of Sandra Thompson at the Mortgage Collaborative on I believe it's Monday, March the 6th. Guessing on what those dates are.
Spot on.
Brian Levy's lashing out at the show, or maybe he's lashing out at me. Anyway, yeah, that
they don't give me control of Rob's mute button for good reason.
Rich, remember the guard dog at the Little Rock airport that was sniffing my luggage?
Yeah.
aggressively while we were on the show.
I remember
The,
that. I remember several drug dogs aggressively sniffing you over
it's a pattern.
the
It's a pattern.
I don't, where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Anyway, they're not, I guess the residents of the boardwalk here aren't appreciative of me broadcasting from this location. So
They don't seem happy.
Anyway.
Yeah. And you're another.
I apologize for the background noise there.
Do you have a
Tell
film
them to
crew
talk
there?
to me, Rob.
Well, Rob, I got to give you credit. The one thing I had to mention inside the jobs report today, you always talk about the full, the restaurants and the airport park. Hospitality and leisure added 128,000 jobs last month. That's almost as much as they were expecting nationally. And that is crazy to me. Also within that, professional services was also a huge spike up, like consulting and things of that nature. So I thought that was interesting and of note. And I lost faith in Powell for like a month, and it does crack me up how he's trying to have all these tough talk with all these great economic numbers. It's difficult for him to pull that off. But you never lost faith, and you said we were probably not going to go into a recession.
Well, it can happen. It can happen, but recession typically means lower rates, and rates are, to Tom's comment earlier about equilibrium. I mean, we're kind of treading water, and rates feel pretty good. And Jodi said, rates are where they are, and they're, loan officers are need to, give a nod to rates and know where they are and get on with their business, get on with their jobs.
Look, in my day, consumers got mortgage rates over 15% and they slept out overnight at the lender shop just to get that. They should be so lucky in this environment.
And we did roll out, it is worth noting, because of the topic of sales call reluctance has become such a huge issue within our network. We had our vice president of learning and development, Stacy Wider, develop a really phenomenal sales call reluctance course. If one of our team members can maybe link that in the chat, it is very, very relevant right now, because we're starting to get to the point, Jodi, to your point, where the situation is improving. Rates are starting to come down a little bit. We're starting to see more activity, and it is all the things that we've been talking about as leaders to our people these last couple of months. It's time to now go execute that, because it's a better, not ideal, but a better business climate.
Was that a question, or is this we're waiting for Jodi to unmute herself?
I don't know. Yeah,
I heard a big thud, and I was waiting for a big scream, but it hasn't come yet. So maybe she knocked herself out. I missed the question.
Just give a little scotch.
That is not a laughing matter, because I know this, these horrific accidents keep happening to people. In fact, last year, the year before, I think somebody in our business, mortgage banking business, went out to walk his dog in Atlanta or someplace and slipped and fell and hit his head and passed away. And then a week or two, I've learned that somebody who was 43. That
is a ring pop, not a pacifier.
Okay, well, we won't talk about this story, but had too much to drink, and the same thing happened in her house, and they found her like weeks later. It's like, anyway, we don't want to talk about slipping and
Is Jodi brings on an adorable, I'm assuming, niece of yours.
Yep. This is Collins. Can you say hi?
Hello.
Hi. Nope.
No, Collins.
Look at
It's going to be the next president of the United States.
He's terrible.
Well, there's some on the call
votes.
would think that she should be president now.
Terrified of Tom's mustache. Yeah.
I'm terrified of Tom's mustache. All right. I think we're wrapping the show up, but when they start bringing the kids and elderly people, in fact, here comes another one. I don't want to get yelled at.
Do you have like a whole film crew there that it's causing this much disruption?
Well, I'm on a boardwalk that sticks out into the San Francisco Bay in Marin County, and the residents are very territorial about their boardwalk and who's on it.
Oh.
And I thought that there's a sign right above me that says private walkway. I thought if I stopped here, it would be okay, but apparently just the fact that I'm on the walkway is a problem. So
You would think
Anyway.
Californians would be completely at peace with people taking videos and pictures of themselves by now, but evidently not.
no. All right.
Anything else we have before we take this this to the weekend? Anything else anybody has? Any anecdotes, weekend plans, anything in the chat to take us home?
TGIF.
Performing jazz flute on Saturday nights, the local blues club.
Jazz
That's
flute
it.
is for sissies, Tom.
Hey, look, you're lucky there's a child on right now.
Tom, your daily impersonation is pretty damn good. We're gonna have to. You're working yourself in. You may have to be in this regalia the whole conference. You may have sold yourself too much here this week on the rundown.
Just
Even
a
with the
little
mustard.
James-
super glue next time.
James Driscoll logs on like 3 minutes ago and wanted our take on the jobs report. James, it was a fantastic jobs report. Wage growth is okay. Jobs number so anti-recessionary, it's not even funny.
Was the clip notes. So,
So,
well, as
all
always,
right.
thank you very much to our audience for joining us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern here on the Rundown. And you can find us on YouTube about an hour after the show ends, and on podcast where most of you listen. And you podcast listeners, you missed some funny theatrics.
We only have a little over a month until the event.
Yeah, a little over a month, about a month away from TMC.
29 days. Yep. So stay classy, mortgage bankers. We'll see you in San Diego.
Yes, and thanks for stopping by.
Stay
Yeah,
classy.
many,
Bye,
many.
Stopping by.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you guys next Friday.